Are you ready? Are you ready? Alright, let's see.
In a 3D fighting world, Tekken is king. In this series of episodes, we'll first take a deep dive into the character's martial art. In the second, we will examine what techniques the character uses, as well as rate how well they represent their martial art. In the final episodes, we'll look at other games that feature that fighting style and compare techniques. I'm Yan Fang, and welcome to my channel. There is something inherently badass about seeing a training montage of someone using the Mukyeongjong. In fact, those slapping sounds were definitely part of the reason why Leroy had one of the most memorable character introductions at EVO 2021. In the last video, we separated Wing Chun history from legend, and learned more about the southern Chinese art. Wing Chun is well known for its quick direct strikes and fluid movements. The chain punch, one of its signature moves, is a rapid-fire series of punches. Wing Chun also incorporates a variety of kicks, including the Dangurk, which is used to strike an opponent's torso and disrupt their balance. But Wing Chun is not just about physical techniques. Leroy's fighting style also places a strong emphasis on mental and emotional control, relaxation, and finally developing the practitioner's focus and intuition to better anticipate their opponent's attacks. This video has us looking at some of Leroy's Wing Chun techniques and how many of them are applied in the real world. We'll also look at how the developer applied those movements to some of Tekken's in-game mechanics. Finally, we'll end things with a rating on how well the Grandmaster of Drip uses Wing Chun to take out the trash. There are quite a number of ways to deal damage in the Wing Chun system. The main goal is attacking the opponent's center line while protecting your own. Today we'll look at punches, knife hands, back fist, elbows, kicks, and many more. When it comes to punches, relaxation over power is the name of the game here. This is emphasized to allow them to move faster, to sting harder as they hit. Most punches are thrown using the vertical sun fist, for example. As I stated before, Minhwa Quan are the trademark punches of Wing Chun. When aimed at the face or throat, this causes sensory overload. This combination has 6 rapid strikes, followed by a horizontal elbow that we'll look at later. Here the opponent is taken down, and when the opponent is on the ground, Leroy can also finish them off with a series of chain punches. These straight punches attack the middle gate. Wing Chun divides attack areas into gates, just like we saw in Southern Mantis, while chain punches are done in groups. These are much stronger. And here Leroy advances in a much more committed strike, then hits a second time with a 1-inch punch. This long punch is sometimes known as a bow and arrow punch that comes from the pole form. In karate, the Rotezuki is a double horizontal punch from the waist, nailing the opponent's chest. Leroy's poison strike ends with a double vertical punch. The back fist is a powerful, sneaky technique. Targets usually include the nose, jaw, temple, or eyes. It is executed by twisting the wrist and keeping the elbow close to the body. Timing is crucial for an effective back fist, and it can be quite a devastating surprise attack when used correctly. Here we see a lopsao followed by a back fist. The lopsao is a grab that we'll talk about later, but it's usually followed up in film, especially students of JKD, with the back fist. Bruce Lee uses this a lot after using a lopsao. Here we can see Leroy use this back fist in combination, starting with a back fist into a palm strike and then a lopsao ending with another back fist. And finally here Leroy starts with an uppercut, and while his opponent is reeling back, he ends it with another back fist. knife hand attacks use the edge of the hands for striking. Targets include vital areas such as the throat or side of the neck, and the trajectory of the attack can be vertical or horizontal. The wrist and elbow are usually kept straight to maximize the power of the strike, and accuracy is really the key to hitting the intended target. This is a downward knife hand, and most likely the first image that comes to mind when you hear the word karate chop. At first I thought this was awkward, but the funny thing is, this chopping motion with both limbs can be found in a Bak Mei form, with both knife hand strikes representing butterfly knives. The palm strike is a powerful and versatile technique, targeting areas in all gates, while also allowing for a quick follow-up strike. Depending on the condition of the palm, strikes can be just as devastating while decreasing the risk of fracturing the small bones in the hand. After a quick back fist, Leroy strikes his opponent with a palm to the face. In this attack, Leroy aims for the solar plex, hitting the sensitive area with a devastating amount of force. This is a quick palm strike with hidden properties. If he hits one counter hit, he can follow up with a sequence that ends with him stomping on his opponent's knee joint with the sole purpose of crippling them. The double palm is known as the pole paijian. This is pretty famous and comes from the Muay form. It's usually used more as a push rather than a strike. In Wing Chun, the finger jab is a signature move that is both powerful and quick. It is executed with a sharp thrusting motion and aimed at vulnerable targets such as the eyes, throat, or solar plex. The finger jab is a testament to the influence of animal styles in Chinese martial arts and the development of Wing Chun as a unique and effective combat system. In Wing Chun, elbow strikes come in three primary directions: the horizontal, vertical, and diagonal. The horizontal elbow strike is delivered with a side-to-side motion, while the vertical elbow strike comes down in a straight line. The diagonal elbow strike is angled and typically aimed at the opponent's head or shoulder. Each type of elbow strike is executed with speed and power, making them effective tools in close combat. Arts such as capoeira and taekwondo, as well as Tekken, feature fast high kicks. However, in Wing Chun the goal is to keep the body protected when delivering kicks, since high kicks like these will lead to groin shots. Targets for the kicks are usually the rib, sternum, groin, or legs. They can also be used to distract the opponent and allow the user to move in at a closer range. The front kick in Wing Chun is a fundamental technique used to maintain distance from the opponent or create space for follow-up techniques. It's usually a straight line kick delivered with the ball of the feet or the heel, aimed at the lower half of the opponent's body. Side kicks in various arts act more like a spear, jabbing out, targeting various areas on the body. They can come out to stop an attack or in pairs. While some kicks are high, many target the knee and the shin, with the striking surface usually being the heel. Wing Chun's version of the side kick usually has the arms in a more protective posture. The roundhouse kick is a simple yet powerful technique that commands attention and respect from anyone that receives it.
Which one of y'all kicked me?
A lot of disciplines use this, making it the flagship attack of many of them. Wing Chun is usually a tight system that highly discourages overextending yourself when attacking, but Leroy still uses a few roundhouse kicks. There are most likely a few schools that teach this technique, but it's rarely seen in traditional Wing Chun. Every style has a unique way of dealing with attacks, whether it's a chin check versus a low kick in Muay Thai, a downward block in Taekwondo, covering up in boxing, or even evasion in capoeira. The Wing Chun system favors deflections because they allow the disciple to flow more directly into their attack. There are quite a bit, but we'll look at the main ones that Leroy employs. Sometimes known as Jukpak Sao, this is a slapping parry that allows the Wing Chun disciple to slap away the attacking limb or move in to capture it. The slap is actually soft because not much force is needed to redirect the force of the attack, with the most ideal area being the opponent's forearm. Leroy usually prefers to follow up with a series of chain punches, but in actual application, there are limitless ways to follow up a Pak Sao. The Lap Sao really adds another element to trapping. It's pretty similar to the 7-star praying mantis method of seizing the arm and moving in. The main goal of the trapping method is trapping both arms of the opponent and delivering strikes. Leroy is able to use the Lap Sao in 3 moves. Our first all this in his pulsating fist. You can also see it hidden in his 1-2-1 attack string. Between his second and third strike, you can clearly see a Lap Sao with his left arm. In game mechanics, he's able to parry attacks within that frame. One of Leroy's sabaki also has this movement, and depending on the timing, it allows Leroy to cut through his opponent's hand strikes and attack with his own, and you can clearly see this move in his Tekken 8 trailer against Law. The Bong Sao is a movement that uses the forearm for deflection. It can be used as a backup in a situation where the arm is trapped. The Bong Sao can also be used to deflect straight attacks, making it surprisingly similar to the skull and crossbone used in 52 blocks. Leroy's Bong Sao is used in his Claws of Fury string, however it's more of a series of elbows instead of deflections. The Bu Sao is one of my favorite attacks as it combines the deflection with the finger jab. It seems more suitable at stopping attacks that come straight down the pipe versus round ones. I think Leroy's well-standing one is a great example of Bu Sao. It's a rising finger jab, but also a counter. If he hits this on counter hit, and he's allowed to follow up with a series of attacks. Also known as the receiving hand, this looks quite similar to the begging hands seen in Southern Mantis. The blows are usually deflected with the top of the forearm, turning the arm as it makes impact, and then lays down into the opponent as the wrist turns. It's really interesting as the in-game mechanic of this move allows it to absorb other attacks and send the opponent flying away. Usually the weapons in Wing Chun, depending on the branch, are the butterfly knives, which are also part of the final Wing Chun form. The knives work really well with the elbow strike and knife hand motions. The long pole form was added later by some schools, focusing more on posture and the grip strength of the arms. Using the Wing Chun principles, power can be generated at a relatively short distance with the ideal amount of leverage. While the pole form only has a few movements in its form, Leroy's Master Lessons adds a final flourish to it. Leroy's cane is a little shorter than the pole used in the form, allowing him to add a final spin. He does start the same way by jabbing out with a poke and a downward strike. However, things change when he spins the stab, striking their head and finally ending things. In Wing Chun, part of the curriculum involves takedowns, and this means hitting someone until they're overwhelmed and using tripping techniques so they can be finished off. Leroy's devastating chain punch follows this principle. Leroy Smith was most likely trained in the Hong Kong or Ip Man style of Wing Chun. He really displays a lot of the principles and movements of the system, but there is room for improvement. Overall, his Wing Chun is traditional, but there have been a lot of creative attacks added to Leroy's move list, such as the tornado kick, high roundhouses, and whatever this is. He's not a pure Wing Chun user. In fact, he's more inspired by the movie portrayal of Wing Chun, the closest being Dong Yen. In terms of rating him, he's about a 6 out of 10. This is one of the few times Wing Chun has been in 3D fighting, and I understand some adjustments had to be made for a faster paced character. Thank you all for watching. Viewers like you are really making this channel grow. We've just reached 1,000 subscribers, which is an awesome milestone for me. If you're here for the real Man of Genius parodies, or an OG from the earlier Tekken battles, I appreciate your subscription, feedback, and comments. In the next video, we'll look at other fighting games and their portrayal of Wing Chun. We'll also look at some real fights in movies as well. Finally, we'll look at some possible additions or modifications to Leroy's moveset. Thanks again for watching. God bless each and every one of you. Fang Wei, out.
臭小子，小心你把口喎！